Unmasking the African truth, the African way, and retracing the steps of gallant African indigenous spiritual heroes and heroines, we speak without favor and we leave no stone unturned. AHV, 100% indigenous African content.
Welcome to another episode of African Hidden Voices. My name is Dr. Sbanda. African Hidden Voices is a research organization aimed at unraveling the hidden truths of Africa. In our previous episode, we hosted Imboni Dr. Uzulweze Hadebe, and we explored a subject, who wrote the Bible. It was quite an interesting subject. We managed to excite and ignite discussions based on who wrote the Bible. And by the way, to our knowers out there, just to let you know that Dr. Uzulweze Hadebe is a scholar of note himself. He is a theologian, and I'm also a scholar. Today, in today's episode, we are going to be engaging in a very interesting discussion pertaining to language death, indigenous language death, and language preservation, and also spiritual identity through language preservation. In order to unpack today's topic, I have my guest today, Ms. Lusanda Madikane. Welcome, Lusanda.
Thank you so much, Doug. Good to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe introduce yourself to our knowers out there so that at least they know who today is gracing our studios.
My name is Lusanda Madikane Unozizwe. I'm a master's student at the University of the Free State under Communication Science Department. I'm a chairperson of COSA Student Association, re-elected for 2025.
Oh, congratulations.
And I'm also recently elected as the chairperson of African Languages Student Association at the University of the Free State. I'm also a language editor at Wikipedia. I'm editing isiXhosa, translating English into isiXhosa, and also contributing in isiXhosa in the Wikipedia platform.
Wow, what a resume. Without wasting much of time, maybe just to unpack the subject of today, the importance of languages and spiritual identity. How does language link to one's spiritual identity?
First of all, when you are born, you are given a name in your language. I am Xhosa, I am Lusanda. This name existed before. So I'm inheriting who Lusanda was before. So it links to my spirituality. As Imboni used to say, you are born spiritual. But then now, for you to understand your spirituality, you must understand, you will learn spirituality in your own language. You cannot learn spirituality in English, for example, because there's concepts and terms that you cannot explain in English that are in your language or in your culture or in your traditions. There's like a name like Imbeleko. You cannot translate Imbeleko into English. Imbeleko will always be Imbeleko. So language will always link into spirituality, because language also forms or shapes your worldview, how you view the world. Because when you are taught at home, like when you are groomed in your language. You are taught in your language. You are taught spirituality in your language. So language will always link with spirituality. If you don't know your language, you don't know your spirituality. If you don't know your spirituality, you don't know who you are. If you don't know, if you don't know your language, like you don't know your background, you don't know your roots, because everything is explained to you in your language. Yes.
Okay. I know in our previous episodes, we did touch on a very sensitive topic when we explored the issue of did Africa have a religion before colonialists? I mean, look, when we talk about indigenous languages, these are languages that predated the arrival of colonialists. Now, upon the arrival of colonialists, maybe just from your own point of view, how did colonialists perpetuate the decimation of indigenous languages?
The Bible was written in Dutch. That's what the literature says. The literature that I've read. You know what the researchers will always argue, but then the literature that I've read, it says the Bible was written in Dutch. And then for us to understand the Bible, now going back to did we have religion before? Then for us to be like incarnated or doctrined, introduced into this religion now that is new, being introduced to us, they had to translate Dutch into indigenous languages for us to understand the word of God according to them. That's how they perpetuated the religion through languages. But then they also contributed to language death, because now, after we understood now who this God is, then now we had to adopt their language, English now, because there was Dutch and then there's English. So now we have to pray to Jesus in English, because after all, they are English, they speak English. This God speaks English.
Okay.
So that's how they perpetuated or spread the languages, the religion through languages.
Okay. All right. Quite important. I just want to also pick your brain in terms of when we talk about you are a linguist, a language specialist, if I can say that. If you translate something, does the original meaning, because we as scholars we often talk about etymology, because definitions of things or sources of things, the meaning of something, when you translate it from its original source into something else, or into a new dialect, or into a new language, sometimes there is a meaning that gets lost in translation. Maybe give me examples in terms of when we talk about the translation, especially within the South African context, when we look at where we are, when the Bible was translated from Dutch to English, and then English to the indigenous languages. Maybe just give, for the benefit of Noahs out there, just a few examples in terms of where actually we lost meaning.
I think the Bible itself is different. It speaks in different contexts, because you find a verse in English and it contradicts the verse that is written in isiXhosa. There's also terms that they translated. For example, they give us, let me make an example. They gave us God in English, then they translated God in isiXhosa to uThixo. In isiXhosa, we don't have uThixo. We have uQamata. We grew up knowing uQamata. So now we had to know God as Thixo. Then we had to forget about uQamata, because now we are given uThixo. So those are the things that also contributed to us, like now, not knowing who we are and the African terms and concepts. So there's also names now you hear today's, like someone saying Magriza, Magogo. Like we don't know those things. They're translated from English and then now to our indigenous languages. So they also, there's also these emerging languages that's also confusing us in terms of knowing our background and our history. There's also Makoti. We didn't have Makoti before, but then now there's this trend of if you get married, then you become Umakoti. And then there's also Unkulunkulu, the revelation, the biggest revelation that we just had through Imbonia Kwandu, that it's not Unkulunkulu, it was Umkhulu Womkhulu. But because Bona, they didn't understand, they couldn't like pronounce the word, and then they said Unkulunkulu, and then now we grew up knowing uThixo as Unkulunkulu. But then Unkulunkulu, it was, as a Xhosa person, I knew Unkulunkulu is just for Zulus, Unkulunkulu. Then now we have uThixo. You see the division there. Like we have our own Thixo, and then they have their own Nkulunkulu, of which even that Nkulunkulu is not Nkulunkulu, is Umkhulu Womkhulu, as Imboni has revealed. You see, that's the problem.
Yes, it also speaks to issues of hierarchy, spiritual hierarchy. through the revelations of Imbonu, Dr. Uzuleze Hadebe, well, he teaches us that, look, when you look at the concept of, you mentioning the concept of unkulunkulu,
Yes.
which is umkhulu, kahle kahle. That's what it means. It was a mistranslation, and it's a misnomer actually to say that to mention unkulunkulu, meaning umkhulu is the first ancestor.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And in terms of spiritual hierarchy, he cannot rank as a god.
No.
But through biblical translation, they ranked umkhulu, which is the first ancestor, as the creator, or umveliqala, if I may put it like that.
But it's also confusing, dog, because now uNkulunkulu and uThixo uphinda bengu Jesus futhi. You see, there's a confusion there. Like, we don't know now who is Jesus, who is Thixo, who's Nkulunkulu. You
Well,
see?
that's a
Yes.
that's a discussion for another
Yes.
day, because then we will explore in later episodes to come the issue of Trinity and how it relates to us as Africans. But the issue there in terms of translation, that meanings get lost.
Yes.
Especially when you translate, because the essence of a word in its origin might mean something different from what it will mean after it has been translated.
Yes.
But from your own perspective, I mean, look, we talk about mispronunciation of indigenous names. How is that affected, one's identity?
It has affected us, dog, because before, when they started this thing, if maybe you are Nomtandazo, what is that other name? Maybe let's say Kholihlahla. You know, Mandela was given Nelson because they couldn't pronounce Kholihlahla, and then they've given him Nelson. There are many other people who have names like Grace, Rose, those names, because you have these indigenous
names, especially.
English names. Because now when you are given a name like you are Mike, I am Lusanda, and then I'm given Rose, then that means that I'm being removed from my own identity. Now I have to adopt this identity of Rose. I have to be Rose now, of which there was no Rose in my family before, because these names come from our history. There was a person before, and then this person now comes back, or now I must carry the mission and vision that person had to finish.
The purpose,
yes, or the purpose. Yeah. So now, if you are Rose, who's Rose? I mean, which culture and which identity are you now adopting? You see, that's how you now lose your identity, because now you must be Rose, not Lusanda, and behave like Rose.
Your name actually carries your destiny.
It does.
So if I'm Rose, I have to then go back and understand what is the meaning of Rose.
Of Rose, and you have to Google the meaning now.
I have to Google the meaning.
Yes.
Now it has prized me out of my own lineage and the purpose through which I came to this earth. So that I want us to dwell much more on that issue and how it has contributed to language death.
It has contributed so much, Doc, because now if I am Rose, then I have to adapt other cultures and other beliefs, because now I'm Rose, and I have to make sure that I speak English. Make sure that I have that twang, that twang, because now I'm Rose. And there's people that have indigenous names, but then they will prefer
to use
English names, because Mabepa, they want to be Rosemary, not Lusanda. No, I'm not Lusanda. And then that means that you have to make sure that you follow Western religions and Western beliefs, because now you are Rose, you are not Lusanda. You are not connected to your essence. You're not connected to your Africanism. You're not connected to your ancestors, because now you are Rose. If we can talk about dreams, I think there's a person I know that had a child, and then that person named a child as, like, they give the child an English name, and then the ancestors came through a dream. They were like, why are you giving this child this name? We don't want this name, because we don't recognize this name. Why? You must change that name. Then they gave her name through the dreams, and indigenous names. That means that this is real and this is a problem. But just that our people, they don't understand it. Like, hopefully they choose to ignore because it's out there. Like, they have this dream. They were like, no, it was just dreaming. Doesn't mean anything. Because they don't see ancestors, they were like, they don't exist because they don't see them. You see, that's the problem that we have. So that's why now we have people who are not comfortable to speak their languages. Who are not comfortable to speak in Xhosa and other languages in professional spaces. And if you don't, we want to preserve and revive our languages, we have to speak them. You have to speak isiXhosa. Look like China. They speak their language. If they come to South Africa, they must have a translator to translate to you. And then you get the message, and the meeting will proceed. Regardless of you guys speaking English, but us Africans, we must speak English. We want to speak English. We don't want to speak our languages. And when I was reading literature, I came through an article that was written by UNESCO that says, like, every 2 weeks, an indigenous language die. Sure. It's a problem that we have because we don't want to speak our languages. We don't want to write in our languages. You see, there's this trend on Instagram that on Instagram you cannot write in isiXhosa. You have to write in English, like the caption there, because the standard is up here. Who set those standards? It's us, black people. So now, if we set those standards that on Instagram you cannot write in isiXhosa, you have to write in English, and then now our languages won't be represented online as they are not represented, and we are continuing to not represent them online, and then it also contributes to language death. So that's the problem that we have. Now, if we can change those things, but then now the future is not bright in terms of languages, honestly. It's not. Because according to research and literature, if something does not exist online, it doesn't exist. Now, if your language doesn't exist online, it doesn't exist. It's not there. And remember now, young people, they engage online. Young people read PDFs. They don't want to read like tangible books. No, they read online. So now, if your language is not represented online, then they won't learn their languages. They'll learn in English, and then that's it. They'll be perfect in English. And then they won't know when they have to go back home. What is this now? How is this called in English? They don't even understand abazale kaya. You have to translate for them. You see, that's the crisis. It's very bad.
I want us to look at the role that religion has played in terms of language death. Because for me, I think it's very important. We in our previous episodes we did touch on that. Cultural appropriation and also issues to do with how religion is associated with a certain culture. So if religion comes, it doesn't come in its purest form. It comes with a certain belief and a certain culture that comes with it. So if we are, similarly, when it comes through in a certain medium of communication, which is a language. A language probably maybe universally accepted might be English. And if you're speaking in English, there's certain cultural traits that are associated with somebody else who's speaking English. You have to speak in a certain twang, like we mentioned. You have to behave in a way in which sometimes, we as Africans tend to overdo it more than the owners of the language. You want to speak better English than a white person. So for me, can we explore how religion is contributed to the language death?
It has contributed, dog, because honestly, mucho ngamakholwa, they speak English. When you check online, their prayers are in English. Even their songs are in English. Even the gospel songs online, they're in English. So a religion tells you that you must adopt Western cultures and Western beliefs, and English is Western. So now, if they give you Western cultures and Western beliefs, then you have to adopt English. Even when they pray now in these churches, they pray in English. Their Bible they read is in English, not in isiXhosa. I think there are very few churches that still have a Bible that is written in indigenous languages. So now they read Bibles in English. And I was also told now, because I was a Christian before, and then I was told, like, no, but it's tempting to have that English Bible, because you feel like, no, yeah,
You're special.
yeah, you are special. You know better, because yeah, as people say that if you speak English, you sound smart, you sound intelligent. So now, but then another thing now, God is this God is white, and then of course the whiteness goes with English. So now you have to adopt those. When you adopt those cultures, those Western cultures, you adopt English as well. So now the English now is also given power to be dominant by religion as well, because now if religion has power, because religion colonized us. We won't dwell much on that, but religion colonized us. So now if religion gives power to languages, and then of course that's why English now is dominant than indigenous languages, because it was given power by religion. Yes.
I have to ask you this question, because there's a lot of discussions that go about in in communities, especially when and in my mind I ask myself, if I pray in my own indigenous language, is my prayer not going to be heard? But if I pray in English, is the assumption that if I pray in English, I'm closer to God than if I pray in my own local language?
I think it tells you, your conscious mind tells you that when you pray in English, this God is English, because anything that is white is associated with English. So I think your conscious mind tells you that when you communicate with this God, you must communicate in English, because maybe your mind also tells you that when you speak in your indigenous language, this God won't understand your message, because now you are speaking in a language this God does not understand, does not even know, does not even recognize. So I don't want to dwell much on that, because there's a lot that we can say about that, because I think it's your conscious mind. It tells you, because this is not your God in the first place.
And subconsciously, it has this nuance that the God that I'm praying to is superior, especially with the color, the language, and
Of
the culture that comes with that religion. Mina ngizokhuleka ngesintu, umkhuleko wami ngeke uzwamleleke.
Yeah, because these languages are undermined. Yes, that's why now the English is more dominant than them. They are here, English is here, because English is regarded as the language of opportunities. If you want like anything in life, you must master English. If like maybe if you're studying, there's people who does like their thesis in indigenous languages. They'll be like, why are you studying in your language? Because I mean, you won't gain anything. Like there are no opportunities in isiXhosa. Why are you doing isiXhosa? Why they even question us, the people who advocates for the language preservation, the indigenous languages preservation. They'll be like, no, there's no opportunities in your languages. You must know English. You must master English. And as a result, many students and learners, they miss out opportunities because they cannot articulate themselves in English better because I mean we're coming from different circumstances. You're coming from the village, I'm coming from Willow, JSS, you're coming from St. Michael's, so we won't articulate the same, but then you lose opportunities because of that. So yeah, if you speak English, you are regarded as superior, and I think also people who pray to this God, they pray in English because this God is put here, superior than other beliefs.
So how is that impacted on if we talk African indigenous spirituality, the indigeneity of self? How does that impact on one's identity?
It has contributed negatively, Doc. I don't want to lie because now when you lose your language, you lose your identity, and when you lose your identity, you lose your roots, you lose your spirituality, you lose your true self, your essence, your everything, ubuntu bako, buwena bako, because now you are born spiritual, but then you have to maintain the spirituality. You have to practice spirituality. You can't just be like, no, I'm born spiritual. There's this thing of people, but no, I go to I don't have to go to church. We don't believe in that. You must revive a relationship and sustain it with your ancestors. That's why there's traditions. That's why there's traditions and spiritual rituals, because now you have to sustain and revive and strengthen this relationship. So now when now you don't know your languages, you can your indigenous language, you cannot even relate to your ancestors, because how are they going to communicate with you when you don't even understand your language?
Yeah, that disconnection as well. How do you communicate to them,
with them,
in a foreign language?
No.
So that is a way that takes you out of your communication and your connection to your lineage.
Yeah, there's a breakdown there.
There's a breakdown there.
There.
Okay. All right. I want us to, you did mention something very interesting. I like picking people's brains when it comes to especially topical issues like this. The role of middle class black families in all this here.
Yes.
The so-called clever blacks. If I take my kid to a private school, I want my kids to learn English. I want
Only
my kids
English.
to be, if they go to a private school, they're far much better because they learn and understand English. And at home, we speak English. We lose our identity. We lose our languages. And then we become what Frantz Fanon says, black skin, white mask people. Maybe take our knowers through that concept of the middle class in their contribution to language death, especially indigenous language death.
There's many articles written about that, and I think one of our language preservation campaigns as Xhosa Student Association emanated from that, because I've read this article by Dr. Tagata. It was written in 2015. She says that middle class children, they are discouraged by their parents to speak indigenous languages, because like how colonialists did, because they discouraged us, because they introduced schools, but no, you guys are backward, you must go to school, you must learn English so that we can communicate with you, because mandate lapa and the agenda was them being able to communicate with us, so that they can take whatever they want to take from us, because now, remember, if you speak your deep Xhosa, your deep Zulu, they won't understand, but then for them to understand and be able to take whatever they see that is valuable from us, they must make sure that you learn their language, and then after learning their language, then you tell them everything. So that's why they
power
took
and control.
Yes, that's why they took us to school, and then now as abazali now, we are perpetuating, we are also spreading the same message, the same agenda. Because now, it's not wrong to take your child to a private school. It's not wrong. But then, because now there's APS score at university, and now a child coming from junior secondary school and a child coming from St. Michael's, for example, they won't have the same APS score. Then now this one is disadvantaged. She won't get admitted at the university because of the points. This one is more privileged. But then that does not mean that this one now must not speak their languages, must be removed from their roots. Because as parents who are encouraging this, for example, when a child comes back from school and they were like, okay, what did you learn? They ask in English. And you would say, no, we speak English here. We speak English. We don't speak isiXhosa. Because I want my child to be perfect in English. As if now, if this child is perfect in English, and then now who say more intelligent than any other child. It doesn't work like that. English is just a language of communication for you to be able to communicate with other people, or not like for you now to be regarded as you are clever and intelligent than anyone else. I can tell you from my experience, I studied at junior secondary school. I was taught English in isiXhosa, and then I got an opportunity. I got admitted at the university. I was studying with students from St. Michael's and the likes. And I can tell you, they really struggle with writing that English. Academic writing, yabahlula. And then now, when we go to graduations, Lusanda from Willow JSS graduated with cum laude, because it's not about the language. It's about your intellect. Cognition. It's about now you putting into paper what you've learned, because you have been taught how to write, how to articulate yourself, and how to put whatever you've been taught in paper and into practice. So now they hold on into like knowing that English as you are better, like abanye abantu they don't matter to you. So it's wrong there. It starts at primary school when your mother tells you that no, English is better than any other languages. You must know English. And then when you go to university, you only focus on that. You don't focus on learning now, because now we are learning. We're not learning the language now. We are learning. Yes.
So you speak about the role of universities, APS scores. I want us to maybe explore that avenue as well. The academic space and its role in perpetuating language death. Maybe give our knowers just a brief overview in terms of what you've experienced.
Since I've started this year, like advocating for preservation of indigenous languages, I have noticed that in some universities in Africa, in South Africa, they still have foreign languages like Dutch, Latin, French. And you ask yourself, like, we uzenze Lebanese languages. Who must learn these languages? It's us. It's black people. Because, majority of students in these universities is us. You'll see in a province, there's languages, there's 4 maybe or 5 indigenous languages that are official in that province. But then this university will have like 2 of these indigenous languages, followed by then English and Afrikaans, and then the English and Afrikaans and other indigenous languages will be in the policy, okay? And then we are satisfied, now our indigenous languages, at least they are recognized, they are in the language policy. You go to the courses now. When you go to courses, these languages are not in those courses. They are just in the language policy. You have French, you have Dutch, you have Latin, you have other foreign languages. Why must we learn these languages? What are we going to do with them? Because some of us, we don't even like have dreams to go overseas and work there, because we believe in giving back home. Because I cannot take my skill to other countries when South Africa is suffering. You see, some of us, we don't have dreams to go overseas. If we want to go overseas, we just want to go on a holiday, explore, and then come back. So now, what is your purpose? What is your mandate when you are still teaching us these foreign languages? Honestly, when we must master our own languages. For example, I only know isiXhosa, isiZulu, a bit of Sesotho. I understand Sesotho, but I cannot speak Sesotho fluently. A bit of Sesotho, 3 languages, plus this one, English. Then our universities will give us like foreign languages for us to learn them, while we must focus on learning African languages so that when I speak to you, even in this podcast, we're not supposed to speak in English. We're supposed to speak in our indigenous languages, because now we must speak in English because other people do not understand isiXhosa. You see, that's the problem. And they are adding to the problem that we have.
Yes.
They are adding to the language death by giving us foreign languages for us to learn these languages, honestly, because we are Africans. Instead of adding more of these languages as modules, as courses, so that we learn these languages, so that when I go to vendor, because now if I were to go to vendor, I'll be like, no, I need a translator, because I don't understand this vendor. Because no one is encouraging me to learn this vendor, because after high school, you go to university. This is where you have to learn these languages, because in Eastern Cape, you're learning isiXhosa and English. That's given. It's Eastern Cape. That's where isiXhosa is. Then when you go to university, at least they must have these indigenous languages instead of foreign languages. Yes.
Okay. And in terms of interesting enough, I mean, there's when you look at some of the universities that teach, for instance, law, there is an element of Dutch there. Roman Dutch is one of the languages, and Latin as well, one of the languages that are used there. I remember reading excerpts of Dr. Hlophe when he spoke about his thesis on decolonizing the South African law or the judiciary system. He touches on a very important aspect in terms of why do we need to use foreign languages and foreign systems and laws when we had our own systems as Africans that were very powerful and very useful in dealing with some of the infractions in society. So in terms of that. Are you advocating for a complete breakdown from what I saw? You were very passionate when you were speaking about this. Are you saying we need to do away with such foreign languages? I mean, albeit not in their entirety, but encourage teaching and learning in indigenous languages. Is that your stance?
Yeah, Doc, I can say, because if we say Masibuyelembo, African restoration, then we must restore everything. We must restore the system that was used before in law, because when they incorporate these languages, the Latin and the likes, because now it tells us that this system is not ours. Yeah, it's a prestige degree, but then it does not have to include Latins as if they are better than us. They know better than us. No, we had our own systems. We just have to research and write that down, because our other problem is that these things are not written down. So now we keep referring to them because we were told, but they're not written down. When we decide to write these things down and how law was before, these systems were before, and then we have something to produce, but this is how it was done. We know how it was done, but then now basbetang literature, it's not there. That's the problem. That's why now bafake izinto zabo ke now, so that it looks prestige, because it comes from abantu who knows better than us. So if we say Masibuyelembo, we must be a lembo. If we say African restoration, then it's African restoration. Everything must be restored. Everything must be we are aware, of course, it cannot be like 100% as it were before because of the times, but then at least the system, the indigenous system that was used before, it can also be used today, and that degree will also be regarded as a prestige degree, as a prestigious degree. It won't take anything away from that. Yeah, but then because now if it incorporates or includes isiXhosa, then be deemed as I doesn't have that
Sound,
thing.
doesn't
Doesn't
have-
have that thing because now there's isiXhosa in it, or any indigenous language. Yes.
Okay, we talking about decolonizing the judiciary. I want to take us back to the subject of today, language death and language preservation and spiritual identity through language preservation. How do we decolonize languages?
Not like other people are not comfortable with the word decolonize because it has a lot of connotations or definitions to it. Other people are not comfortable with the word, but at the end of the day, we have to decolonize because we were colonized. And some of the things that we have to start with, going back to our roots. Because if we go back to our roots, then we'll see the importance of languages, the importance of knowing your language. Because a problem with us is that, like, we don't love ourselves. If you don't love yourself, you won't love your language. No, you try by all means. I remember there was a time when I started working last year. And then now I was so comfortable in speaking my indigenous languages. And then now I was pushed to learn. I know English, but I just don't like speaking English all the time.
You're doing a very good job.
I just don't like, I'm like, why? Because I speak English when I have to present and write. That's enough. When I have to communicate, I communicate in English. Why do I have to speak English every day? But then I was challenged now I challenged myself because of the pressure I was experiencing. But then now I have to perfect myself, perfect my articulation in English, because now I'm in this department, and this department is regarded as the department character and all of that, the vice chancellor. So now you must twang English. And I remember going through the classes on TikTok and YouTube. I want to improve my vocab and all of that. And it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere. I think it lasted a week because I reminded myself that I'm able to speak English when I have to, and and the person that has to hear me, they will understand. I'm able to write in English. I don't have to put in so much work in learning English, because what I realize is that when you're putting so much work in learning this language, you are forgetting yours, and yours is dying. That's why now we have language death, because when we write online, we write in English. When we speak in English. So who's going to speak isiXhosa? Who's going to speak these languages? So I think the more we speak these languages, the more now we contribute to now the campaigns of preserving these languages. I loved Mama Minister Payne Machodina when she said, she questioned Pansal, but why don't you guys prepare me my thingy? What is it? The oath that they take. Mine was supposed to be written in the isiXhosa because motatis fungo is something that is very personal. It's something that is very personal. It's like umtandazo. It's very personal. So you must understand that I am taking this oath, ndiyafunga that ndizosebenza, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Then when you say it in English, honestly, it doesn't have that essence. It doesn't have that thing.
You're bringing another another topic there.
Yes.
When you talk about the role of the church and the state as an apparatus used in a colonial agenda, when we talk about taking oaths, when you're talking about the language that is used there, which is English, not only that, there are symbols there that are used there, which is a religious book that is used for you to take an oath. So where do I fit in? If I'm not part of that certain religion, how do I take an oath on to something that I don't necessarily resonate with.
Yes.
So there is an issue there when it comes to the role of the church
and the
in state apparatus and the language as well. You mentioned that. We mentioned the issue of religion being a contributor to language death.
Yes.
I know there is an issue to do with African initiated churches and the role that syncretism has played in terms of trying to fuse or to hybridize traditional systems or African indigenous spirituality, culture versus Western religions in the birth of African initiated churches.
And of which it will never blend, because these things, it's water and paraffin. Like it will never blend. When you subscribe to a certain belief, maybe let's say African spirituality, like me, and then you are in that space, you are not accommodated, and you are not accommodated. Like, and no one cares about that. But then our country speaks of diversity, and then I believe that if we speak of diversity, we must also include other beliefs. African beliefs, because that's what we are advocating for. We are saying we must also be recognized, and as people who have their own beliefs, who does not subscribe to these Western beliefs, but then now they will try by all means ukuthi hayi sizoyizama siyifake, but ayifakeki because now uzoyifaka in Western ways, of which it does not resonate with me, because it doesn't have that Africanness or Africanism in it. So it will still be recognized as Western. It's Western. So we are not recognized, and our languages and beliefs continues to be suppressed, regardless of the diversity and inclusivity in South Africa.
All right. Very interestingly, that you mentioned the issue of inclusivity and diversity when it comes to indigenous language systems. You are a linguist yourself. Maybe what our viewers will want to know, what initiatives have you started in order to make sure that the decimation of indigenous languages does not continue? What needs to be done, and how do you spoke about how do we go back to our own roots as Africans, especially relating to our own languages?
I think we'll need assistance in that with the current system, because it's very difficult with the current system. If we can change the current system or influence the current system, or the current system allows us to be ourselves, allows us to have our own policies, because there's policies that limit us. Even if you want to do something, then the policy will limit you. There's an article that we collaborating on about the absence of indigenous voices. I think it was influenced and encouraged by my activism. I'm a language activist.
Yes.
It was encouraged by my activism, because I noticed that in one of our campaigns, because we noticed that school children, they are taught, like at a very tender age, to honor and love English than their languages. Then as an association, we started this initiative. We went to this primary school, and then we asked them, which language do you prefer between English, isiXhosa, Sesotho, and Zulu? And most of them say English. Why? Because I watch cartoons in English. Yes, and that's another problem. Because at home we speak English, because I'm told to master English than these languages. So that's the problem. So if we teach them young to honor and love their languages, as they are very important and they play a significant role in their lives, then I think then the next generation will be better than us. But then, because with the current one, I think if they can at least accommodate us in their policies, because we have indigenous knowledge systems, but these indigenous knowledge systems, they limit us. For instance, there's indigenous languages there's indigenous knowledge systems, but then still amagqirha, they don't like have like full rights to give us letters that you were sick, that ubusendumbeni, that ubuyotwasa. Like they don't have those rights, but yet they carry, they are custodians of indigenous language systems. So if we can at least be like accommodated there in those acts, in those policies, then that would be better, because at least we can have now amagqirha, traditional health practitioners, as now people who can give us like a letter for you that you went to initiation school for 6 months, and then now you came back, and then now you're allowed to have your job back, or you're allowed to write a test if you missed a test. If we just can be accommodated in terms of policies, I think that'll be better.
All right. I would like to thank you, Lusanda, for attending this episode. Quite a live engagement that we've had pertaining to languages, language preservation, and the language death and its relation to spiritual identity. To our knowers out there and our viewers, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, we have our book that we are promoting on Take-A-Lot and on all exclusive bookstores titled Introduction to African Indigenous Spirituality. We would like to thank you for coming on board to explore this lively topic. We will engage with you in our next episode. Thank you.